Well, hey, everybody, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. You know who I am and what I do. And you know this guy, too. This is Steve Olson from the WSO, which I believe is Wormwood System Observers, right?
Yes, Wormwood Systems Observations.
I do. This is Steve. Where'd that come from? Was that me or you?
That was me. That was
okay. Wormwood System Observations. And you've been doing this for a minute now, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 3 years, nonstop. I've made over 2,500 videos. It's been a full-time thing for the last couple of years. It's getting weird again right now.
Steve, it's funny. You and Rex and I think, are the only people I know of that have made over 2,500 videos.
Yeah, and a lot of people will look at my YouTube channel, and say, well, what happened to them? Well, I had to do a big purge, when we had this apocalypse going down and all the stuff going on with Google. I was having them coming at me with strikes on old videos. So what I did was I just took down probably about 1,400 videos I took down.
I took down a lot of videos too for the same reason. And the thing that I noticed, which I thought was really strange, is, you have your view count up there, however many views. When you pull those videos down, it pulls the views on those videos out of that number too. Did you notice that?
Yep, sure did. Yep.
Crazy. So it's not like you didn't get the views, but who knows? Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Right.
But you have been noticing some real interesting changes in the moon lately, and we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to give you the floor to just go through it. But before we do that, Steve, if you would, if you don't mind, just in general, just for general purposes and general understanding, what do you think about the moon? What do you think it is? Is it natural? Where did it come from? Is it hollow? Is it inhabited? Is it made out of cheese? Did we go there? Just kind of bring us up on what Steve Olson, founder of WSO, thinks about the moon, then feel to go right into these new and amazing things that you've been seeing and have been being reported to you from literally across the world.
Right. So let's just start out with what do I think the moon is? The answer is I freaking don't know anymore. That's the answer. And it's and this kind of goes along the vein. I'll just make a little segue and then come back to it again. My recent spiritual growth, I would have to say, is primarily focused on anti-dogma right now. So wherever I find dogma anymore, I get almost offended by it. Not offended in a sense, you know what I'm saying? So when you're talking to me, a lot of people are having a hard time because it's been kind of a whiplash for them. I went from fundamentalist to open-minded seeker, looking at all the possibilities in the last 2 years, right? So it's hard for people to kind of stay caught up. So I always like to make a note on this stuff. I know less than I knew 2 years ago as a result of my research, not more. And it's okay to say you don't know. All right. So let's start with that. So who have I talked to and what have I been thinking about when I think about the moon, right? So obviously the first thing that you think about when you think about the moon, in my world anyway, is that it's always been an enigma in just from the scientific point of view. So first of all, this thing faces us all the time. It never shows its backside. That's unusual. It stays in a fixed position around the Earth at all times. Second thing, it is perfectly aligned in a solar eclipse, as you know, that the odds of there being that perfect circle being enough to block out the sun like we see in an eclipse, right? Is when you really think about that and stop with just kind of the sheeple thinking, just going down the road. Oh, it's just an eclipse. It's the moon in front of the sun. No, you know what the odds are for something like that to happen is like in the millions to billions to one that it would line up perfectly like that.
It actually approaches impossible. You would say it's impossible, but yet here it is.
But yet there it is, right? Then I started to listen to, like many of us do, like listen to the Dave Icke take on it, right? Where he's talking about, the moon isn't what we thought it was, and all the history that he talks about, how it wasn't always there, and all of these types of things, right? And then this is kind of a fast forwarding through the thinking process on the moon. Then I come in contact with this guy named Bruce Sees All, and other astronomers too, not just Bruce, but others. Yep. But Bruce especially has been super gracious to me in lending me access to his 14-inch telescope and doing, where we do observations together on the moon. And we did a couple videos on this. When we zoom in on the Terminator line, Nobody can tell me different. I see structures, bridges, machinery, all kinds of stuff. So there's that.
Steve, does Bruce Sees All have a YouTube channel?
He does. It's called Bruce Sees All YouTube channel.
Yeah, let's make sure you go over and check that channel out, folks. People that are good researchers, whether they agree with us 100% or not, let's support them, and let's support those people that are out there on the front lines, putting their selves on the lines and doing the work. So go and look at Bruce Sees All channel, and of course the WSO channel as well.
Right. And so again, I'm just giving you the layers of information that I get on the moon. Then I was working with a guy named Eric Briggs, who said back he started noticing that the moon was flipping, where it would start out like this way, it would go through the sky, and then it would literally flip over like this. First time anybody told me that, and then when I went out and looked at it myself, sure enough, it flipped that night. The half moon flipping.
I was just told that maybe 2 months ago, Steve, at the first time, and it's crazy.
It is crazy. And if people watch the moon closely, which we don't typically do, but if you really spend some time trying to observe the moon, you're going to see the things I'm talking about. This is not some secret occult knowledge. You can just look up at it and see it, right? Then I started working with Crow 777 and his observations of the moon. And remember the lunar wave?
Yeah. What was his name again?
Crow 777.
Okay. Crow 777. Yep.
Yep, and his partner Jason Lindgren, and they actually did a whole movie called "Shoot the Moon" on Vimeo. It's available. It's very interesting stuff. So, I grew up 100% believing NASA's take on the moon, and then as all these different people, Ike, my own observations, Eric, Shoot the Moon, and the Crow crew, and all of this stuff is now it's getting to the point where the moon is so weird to me that I don't even know what to make of it. Now, here's our most recent observations that I think that prompted this call, right? So in the last couple of days, we had the full moon, and it's the harvest moon. So you have a full moon for 2 days. That's the way the harvest moon is determined. And I have a vantage point now where I can see the moon rise across Lake Michigan, where our new home is. So I can actually walk out to the lake, and I can look at the moon coming up, so I can get a really accurate reading on where it's coming up. Right. Well,
you just taught me something, Steve. I didn't know that's what a harvest moon meant, that you can see a full moon for 2 days. That's very interesting.
Right. And it's always this time of year. So it's associated with harvest time in the Midwest and stuff. So it's kind of a well-known little thing here. Right. So anyway, I'm just sitting on my computer the other night, and I'm just looking at emails. You know how it is. Sometimes you're just catching up on emails. And I got like 4 or 5 people going, the moon's not in the right place. The moon's not in the right place, especially Sam Walker, who I trust a lot. Hey, Sam, if you're watching. But Sam down in Texas, he said, boy, the moon is way off tonight because people watch it from their landmarks, right? So I know the moon always comes up or behind the barn and goes, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
And I've heard that again too, Steve. People are saying the moon is just not where it's supposed to be. I've had people say they've watched it move up, down, back, forth, real time.
So, and this is not just been a recent phenomenon. It kind of comes in waves off and on at WSO. So we have Focus on the Moon. You know, it happens like about every 6 months. It gets so weird where people can't, you know, they just have to write to me or call me and tell me about it, right? So that night, though, Sam did his observation, and then I was able to 5 minutes later run out, and it was just rising on Lake Michigan. So I pulled out my compass. I pulled up the where the moon chart should be, like the moon chart thing. And it was 23 degrees off. It was no question about it. I looked at it. I looked up. And what was really funny about it is my wife and I were both amazed on how beautiful the moon was and everything. So we were talking about it. But then when all these deluges, I wasn't even paying attention to his position at the time, believe it or not. I just wasn't caring about it. I was just amazed that it was yellow and auburn and weird and cool.
And that's us in the community. Think of the people that don't think like we do. They never give it a second thought.
Not even a second thought. So then the next night I did another observation. It was off about 10 degrees. And what's interesting about this is I asked my audience to send me in their moon observations over the next coming days because I wanted to see if it was just an anomaly from my point of view. And I got people from Willow, Alaska, the UK, Russia, India, you know, all over the world giving me their moon observations. Here's what's interesting. Some places it's spot on, right where it's supposed to come up. Right where it's supposed to, right, and it rises in the right place. It does everything correctly. In other places, the same day, like I had a person from the UK telling me that it was perfectly on, exactly where it was supposed to be. At the same time, that same day, the person in Willow, Alaska said it was off by 30 degrees.
How can that be, Steve?
That's why I say I don't know what's going on here. We can speculate. Now, that's what we're going to do today, because that's what truthers do. That's what conspiracy do, is we're going to speculate. But then you start thinking about, like, you think about all of the stuff that we've been talking about as it relates to the moon, like the moon landings, and was that real? Was that not real? All that kind of stuff. What did they find there? The stuff that I've clearly seen on the moon, that's mechanical. And so I'll tell you where my thinking is on it right now. I think that what we have up there is a space station.
Mm-hmm.
I know, right?
I would like to say you're crazy. I'd like to say you're nuts. I'd like to say I don't believe this guy. But at this point, I just can't.
I can't either. And especially, I was just watching Naughty Beaver last night. He did a big video on this very subject and this very topic. And he went into kind of depth in it from a historical, prophetical point of view.
Mm-hmm.
To make a long story short, that the current hypothesis in our community right now is that we're dealing with a piece of machinery that has been used to actually create a holographic Earth. No, right?
I mean, and some people I'm having on tomorrow, they say that the moon is broadcasting what we know as the 3D reality. It's a 3D matrix, and it's here to keep these reptilians locked in that they couldn't eradicate. So there's all kinds of theories, Steve,
out there. But let's just stay with this kind of working idea. I don't even like to call it a hypothesis, because that's a scientific term, right? Or theory. It's just an idea. The idea that I'm having, based on all what I'm seeing right now, is that what we have up there is a big machine of some sort. Or its origins are unknown. Its purposes are unknown. But there's a lot of speculation that say that, like, for example, the Van Allen belts and a lot of the electromagnetic ways that the Earth kind of operates depends on this kind of moon-Earth relationship, right? And so it leads you to kind of think, well, why would somebody bring in a big artificial satellite and have it doing all this stuff, right? It's you know what I mean? And again, this leads towards this whole matrix idea so hard that it's hard to deny it, right? Why is it that we can only see one side of the moon? Why is it when they threw the lem down on it, that it rang like a bell for 30 minutes? Why is it that it's so weird in terms of you just have to start. This is kind of an example of what it means to wake up. When you stop accepting what everybody says about the moon and you start asking questions about the moon, it's kind of a sign that you have kind of eyes to see, because you're trying to figure things out that you've always assumed you knew the answer to. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And it's funny, we were talking before the show, and the name Eddie Bravo came up, and I had an opportunity to spend a couple hours with Eddie about a month or so ago. And he said, interestingly enough, he says, the first question I always ask anybody before I even talk about flat Earth is I ask them, what do you think about the moon? Did we go to the moon or not? And he says, and that question, the answer to that question lets me know if someone has any ability to think outside the box whatsoever.
Yeah, and the answer I give to did we go to the moon or not is I don't know. I know what NASA would have us to believe and everything. So here's my working theory on that. My working theory is they went to the moon, but they didn't show us what was on the moon.
That's probably my working theory right now. Maybe it's because I don't want to say we didn't go because I'm so indoctrinated. But one thing I do know for sure is that what they showed us of us going, there's no way that was real.
Right. Or the crafts or how they did it or anything. And I know the theories go all the way from we never went to the moon. The Saturn V rocket was just a big firecracker, all the way to we went to the moon and there were actually more missions to the moon than what they told us about. So there's a whole spectrum of and this is part of what I think they do to us, Jeff, right? I think that they just jam the airwaves with every possible working theory to confuse away from the truth, right?
Good thought.
Really hard for us to sift out. How would I know for sure unless I went with them? Right?
Exactly right. That's a great point.
And so we're all speculating, and this goes back to one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it relates to the moon, and it relates to science, and it relates to everything we're talking about, and that is I have been on a tear on internal dogma and belief systems in my own life. And you're a big part of that too, Jeff. I know you don't know this because I don't talk to you as much as other people do, but you've had a big impact on me just from your Christian whistleblower perspective, right? Now, dogma doesn't just mean religion. Dogma is in science. Dogma is in government. dogma is in personal relationships, right?
It is.
What is dogma? Dogma is where you think you know it all and you need no more information. You have all the facts and you are the man or you're the lady and you know what it is and that is it. And everybody else is wrong. And everybody else is wrong, right? And I'm coming to this kind of, place in my life now where the tables have turned. I went from this dogmatic preacher guy to the tables have just completely 180 degrees turned now. And now it's like I can't take anything off the table.
Right. And somebody just put an interesting question on. I've never heard. I wonder if you have. Have you heard of a theory that there used to be 3 moons around the Earth?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I've never heard that.
Yep. And in fact, right now, we've been tracking down in the South America. They have the European Space Agency has an operation down in Chile. And it's a website where you can actually go and see the southern sky. And about 3 to 4 days, sometimes more every month, we see a second moon down there. Are
you serious?
Yeah. In fact, let me see if it's going.
Do you see both of them at the same time?
You don't see them both together. That's the one thing, right?
Okay, but you know from the position and whatnot, it's a second moon.
Correct. And I'll see if I can find a little footage from that here. Here we go.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll put it up here on the screen so people can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, feel free to share it.
Yeah, let me get that up, and you can see it.
Yeah, we're talking with Steve Olson of WSO. Make sure you go to the WSO website and also Bruce Sees All YouTube channel and take a look at some of this great research we're talking about.
Right, and here's a recent video that we did on this where you could actually see this thing up there, and you can see this is looking up, and the moon was not in this position at this time. It shouldn't be that close to the sun. But it's like, you can see, it's cray-cray, So that
circle there is the moon. Okay, I got you. And
right.
then in the background is the sun.
I put a moon up there because I was like, wait, it's got some of the same, shape. Like
it does. It looks just like that.
Right. And then I was like looking at it and see how it's moving here in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this weird thing that comes up off the ground over here. Everything's weird nowadays. This is just so common. But this happens all the time. If you guys go down and take a look at this one, it's iseso.org, and you can find the link in this video too. It's right here, this one here. Let's take a look and see what it looks like today. Let's just see what it looks like. Oh, can't be reached. What do you know?
What do you know?
Well, there you go, Jeff. We can't reach that website anymore. So there you go.
It's
but anyway,
amazing
they're also
when we watch
talking. Are you
stuff
still there, Jeff?
I'm here.
Did I lose you?
No, you're just buffering a little bit, or I'm buffering a little bit, but we still hear you fine. So it looks like Steve's buffering a little bit. I'm green on this end. We'll just be patient, and Steve will be right back in. But make sure that you tell your friends and neighbors to come take a look at these videos, to look at the WSO WSO YouTube, and also Bruce Sees All YouTube. It's great stuff, and we're really trying to get to the bottom of these type of experiences, these type of changes, these type of moon things. We just lost Steve. He dropped off. I'm hoping that he'll drop back on. But, every time somebody has a problem with their YouTube, they want to blame it on the NSA or the CIA or something like that. I'm not that kind of guy, but when things like this happen, when you're green and everything's fine, and then all of a sudden people start dropping off, it really makes you wonder. And I got to tell you what, guys, this is not, we'll just wait for Steve to get back. This is not easy for me because I'm a rational guy. I'm not a conspiratorial guy by nature. And, the moon is the moon, and what are we getting all crazy about? But when you start putting the pieces together, and when you start thinking about the fact that it's impossible for the moon to be where it is, but there it is. Why doesn't the thing rotate like all the other heavenly bodies? Why haven't we seen the other side? And then you go and you look at the equipment that they say they took to the moon, and you start doing measurements, and you realize that 2 astronauts in their fully fledged space gear that they walked out of that limb in couldn't fit inside of it. It was impossible for them to fit inside of that limb. And you start lunar LEM, lunar something module, and you start thinking about why, how, and your mind just begins to go crazy because you're thinking, how can we be wrong for so long? And it almost brings me back to the way I was with Christianity. You just assume it's right. You assume that everything you've been told is true. And then you start seeing that things aren't the way that you were told. And you have to start asking questions again. And it almost makes you to the place where you think you're crazy. It's easier, much, much easier to just ignore it, keep your head down and keep going. But salute to people like you folks that are here watching this. Salute to Steve Olson that's here bringing it up. Salute to Bruce Sees All. These kind of people, Naughty Beaver, these folks that are asking questions. These folks that are smart enough to know that they don't know it all, because that's real wisdom, ladies and gentlemen. If you're talking to someone or you see someone that thinks they know it all, like I used to think, that is proof positive that that person does not know it all, and that person is probably indoctrinated, and they probably don't have anything that they can share with you, or precious few things. When you hear a guy like Steve Olson, after his many, many years of research, saying, I don't know, those are the kind of guys you want to listen to. When you got guys like Naughty Beaver saying, I'm crazy, but this is what I see, those are the kind of guys you want to listen to. Now, do you automatically believe everything they say? No, you don't even automatically believe everything I say. You shouldn't. But these are the kind of people that we need in our community. These are the kind of people we need to listen to. Ma'am, sir, if you've got all the answers, well, thank you very much, but I don't have much use for you. Give me the guy, give me the gal that admits that he or she doesn't know anything. And those are the people that I want to talk to. Those are the people that I want to listen to. And it's just like Steve was saying, and I'm sure he's trying to work his way back here. We'll just kill some time. And doesn't Eddie Bravo believe the moon's only 30 miles in diameter with the lunar eclipse? I don't know what Eddie believes as far as the moon. I know he believes it's not real. I know he believes we didn't go to the moon. We talked for a couple hours, but I didn't get into everything that he believes. But I get a lot of emails. I'll get a lot of comments about, well, you're saying things different today than you used to say. You've changed. Well, of course I've changed. That was 5 years ago. That was 4 years ago. That was 2 years ago. I constantly learn. I constantly study. And I like to think that I constantly grow and develop. And may I respectfully say to you, or may I respectively suggest to you that if you believe exactly what you believed 5 years ago, if you believe exactly what you believed 4 years ago, if there's absolutely no change, no development, no new nuances within your thinking and your belief structure over the past 5 years, maybe I'm not the stupid one. Maybe I'm not the hypocrite. Maybe I'm not the one who is crazy. Maybe you are, because you won't learn, you won't study, you won't grow, you won't broaden your horizons, you won't think about things in a different way and from a different perspective. You know, Scotty Roberts, my good friend, he says something and it's a little bit dirty. So, and I see Steve's back, and I'll leave with this and we'll put Steve back on, give Steve the con. Scott has a little saying that says, and I can't remember how the more shit I know, the more I realize I don't know shit. I don't really like the language of it, but it's true. And with that, let's go ahead and bring Steve Olson back in. The gremlins got him, but he's back, and that's what's important. So we're going to go ahead and bring Steve back in right now, and I'll have to unmute him, but we'll do that. And Steve, you are back and ready to go.
Yeah, it's a common occurrence at WSO to get cut off. I had the internet guys out here just yesterday rather. I'm sorry. And I had them do a complete check of all of my wiring and everything, and still didn't work, bro.
You know, it's easy to, everybody wants to say, you know, when they get cut off, it's NSA, CIA, and you always roll your eyes, but then you start thinking, it's only when the good stuff is coming that this happens. So it makes you wonder.
It was right when I clicked on today's images from this telescope.
Yeah, which you couldn't find, right?
Right. This is in La Silla, which is in Chile. And sure enough, our object is there today. So some days you see it, some days you don't. It's right here. If you can barely make it out, but it's there. And that's not the moon. That's the sun, guys. and the moon is way over on the other side right now, and this thing is moving retrograde to the sun, so it's moving the opposite direction. It's not a flare because it shows up when the sun's not there too. So we've been observing this for a long time. So the question was, do I think there are other moons around the Earth? Well, even NASA acknowledges that there's a second moon. So it's really an asteroid-sized moon-shaped object. But again, these are the stories that get out there, and we see in our, because we watch NASA, we watch their press releases and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But the most people in the United States, if you ask them, has NASA admitted that there's a second moon? Most people wouldn't know. The answer is yes. They've acknowledged there's a second moon. So this very well could be.
I didn't know that, Steve. I didn't know that. That's amazing. They've actually said, yes, there's a asteroid-sized body.
That they're calling a moon. They're calling a moon, right?
Wow.
Or consider this. Consider, we talked about this last time I was on, but I think about it all the time. It's like all of a sudden Jupiter has 13 new moons. Really?
Where are they coming from?
Again, I don't know. I think that, there's so this kind of takes us on the Planet X theory, right, for a second. But so a lot of people and the reason I become very suspicious of the Planet X myth in the last 6 months, very suspicious. Why? You say, Steve, you basically sold your life out for that stuff for a while there, right? And I said,
well, yeah. I was thinking that. I didn't say that, but I was thinking it.
I'm just being honest, man. I told people, I said, if I learned anything different, I'd be the first. I would say it from the rooftops, and I'm saying it from the rooftops. I think that there's as much psyop in the Planet X Nibiru thing as there is in anything else we see. Okay, have I taken it off the table? No. All right. This goes back to the whole thing. It's a really high standard for me to push something off the table. So yes, do I still think it's possible? Yeah. Do I think it's likely? Not as much anymore. Because what I really think is happening is that we're going through a galaxy. There's lots of stuff in the galaxy. We don't know what we're going to run into from day to day, and we can't sit there and say we know. But what I will say is that NASA says that there's a Planet X. NASA says, and those guys are saying, so right away, that makes me suspicious. As soon as NASA.
It does.
Right.
And you think about crazy things like it wasn't the last Star Trek movie, but it was either the first or second one that had the new crew on it. And they go to this other planet, and it's called Nibiru in the film.
Yeah, Nibiru. Yeah. Right.
Nibiru, yeah.
And they had these white-faced people on it and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. And that freaked me out when I saw that like I had seen that movie years ago. Same reaction. I was like, really?
I thought, are you kidding me? They're that blatant with it.
I know, but again, it's like, so you think about, what I've been thinking a lot about lately is scripting and programming, right? Mm-hmm. And putting it in context with that. The reason I want people to start to second guess themselves on this is you should be second guessing yourself on everything that you think is a dogma, because it's turned into a dogmatic thing. If you don't believe Sitchin's version of this, or if you don't believe Marshall Masters' version of this, or if you don't believe, then you're automatically wrong and you're on the wrong side. Like, really? Because I'm questioning it? Because I'm saying to myself, well, maybe this is a script. Maybe they wanted us to have this little, pocket story ready to go so that when weird stuff started happening around us, they could put this context around it, which just so happens to include an alien race called the Anunnaki, which just so happens to sound a lot like Werner von Braun in his conversation with Karen Rosen. So listen, and if you don't know what that was, Werner von Braun told his assistant, he said, first they're going to do the Cold War, then they're going to do a fight on Islamic terrorism, and then they're going to have a big thing about asteroids, which is happening right now. It's everywhere in the media now. You don't have to be truth, or you don't have to be a tinfoil hat wearing guy to talk about asteroids striking the Earth anymore. They talk about Apophis like it's in the newspaper every day, etc. And then the next thing they were going to talk about was alien invasion. And he said, Carol, it's all fake.
Von Braun said this.
Yes. He says it's all fake. And you have to ask yourself, well, why would somebody have the motive to try to fool the world on this scale, to try to plant these kind of misinformation? What are they trying to do? Right? Why would they say stuff like this? Well, let's think about possibilities here, right? And let's use the example of, let's say I know an eclipse is coming and you don't.
Okay. And we'll talk about the eclipse too, I hope.
Right, we'll talk about it. But it's like I know it's coming and you don't know it's coming, right? I could tell you anything contextually around that event. If you didn't know about it, I could say, Jeff, it was because of your sin that the sun is going to go dark today. And if you don't give me $100,000, then that sun will never come back. You can mess with people if you know something's going to happen, or you know the real orbital dynamic. You really know what's going on in space. This is one of the big things I think about now is that these guys know what's going on. The government knows what's going on in space. The elites know what's going on in space. They've always known, and they use it just the same way that I just used that illustration. They any script, any paradigm around it that they want to, and people will buy it hook, line, and sinker. We know how people work with the problem, reaction, solution idea, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So again, I'm rethinking this stuff, and I'm still within the context of the name because it is Wormwood System Observations. It doesn't mean that I believe any of it anymore, though, right?
Right.
It means that I haven't taken it off the table, and I'm going to keep looking at it. But is it somebody setting me up to believe and then to propagate a story for them? So let's say that all of a sudden Planet X or something like Planet X shows up in the sky. Do you think that the world's going to just be down a path to the doors of all the Planet X channels that are out there? You think?
I don't know the answer to that. I would think part of me says yes, part of me says no. I would say, yeah, they probably would. These guys were right all along. Here, let's go check them out.
Yeah, you can just think of these scenarios, right, where you've got this ready-made script. Oh, it's the Anunnaki. This is their planet. Yeah. Blah blah blah. And I'm starting to see. That this is very scripty to me, right? It's all very scripty to me.
And, Steve, I'm thinking about NASA, and we always say, never a straight answer, but maybe it's a lot deeper than that, and it's never a simple answer.
That's where I think we're more at, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't trust NASA. And look at all the people, look at all the Planet X research channels that go out there and they take these satellite feeds as gospel truth of what's happening in space, right? And I used to do this too, so I'm not trying to cut anybody down. I'm just saying, do realize that all space feeds go through a place called Rockwell Automation, right? And you do realize that this is a 3-letter agency that runs all these space feeds, right? You do realize that, right?
I do, and I'm glad you're saying it because it needs to be heard.
It just needs to be said. It goes back to
why would it be any different, Steve? We know that all of the news is run through MSN, CNN, and just a few little outlets. Why would any news or any visuals from space be any different? Of course, it's controlled.
And again, it's this thing where it's like there's a part of me that feels like it's time to have this conversation as a truth community right now because I've been led down. Look, I'm going to tell you, man. Just so you guys know that I'm not trying to be higher than anybody else. In 1988, I thought Jesus was coming back.
Did you read the book, Steve?
Yep. Yeah. Remember in 1988?
88 reasons why the rapture will occur in 1988.
September of 1988. And this is when my wife had her and I had just been married. We got out of our apartment. We were ready to sell all of our stuff. We were waiting at the church for Jesus to return.
I was with you. I wasn't quite there, but I remember thinking about it. That's in fact that anyway. Yeah, it was. I
bring it up because
a lot of people.
I've been fooled so many times now. Things that I'm just getting tired of being fooled. So instead of me running to a dogma every time that I learn or see something like this telescope up in down in Chile, instead of me coming to all kinds of conclusions, this must be Wormwood, this must be the end of the world, blah 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 blah. Right? I'm starting to get to the point where I'm just holding back. And I'm saying, let's wait and see what happens. Let's see what this might mean. Let's see if anybody talks about it. Don't be so fast to jump into a dogma pool because trust me, this truth community has got more dogma going on in it right now. And I'm not just talking about Planet X. I'm talking about all of it. Q, all of it. Dogma, dogma, dogma. Everywhere you look, I'm the authority. You must listen to me. I am Mr. Perfect. I am the big cheese. If you don't listen to me, you're on the wrong side. Screw you. I'm done with you. I'm done with that. I'm done with people being the big cheese. I'm done with people saying that they know everything because you just don't know everything, man. Okay? Now, is it interesting? Yeah, this is super interesting. Should we be looking at it and discussing it? Sure, we should. Should we come to conclusions without having a spacecraft and a sample and radio telegraph telepathy, whatever? No, we don't know enough.
Yeah, when you dropped off, we were just having a little discussion, and the guy that says, I know it all, the lady that says, I know it all, they're not the people that I want to listen to anymore. I want to listen to the person that says, wow, I really don't know. We're trying to figure this out.
Right. And see, that to me is the thing that they want to prevent. They want us to not be discussing stuff together. So what's the big effort that we saw over the last 2 years? And I know you've seen it in spades, and I have too. Separate, divide, plant, like you'll get a call tomorrow. Steve Olson, he's a scam artist. You don't want to do anything with Steve Olson. Yeah. And now I'll get a call. Jeffrey Daugherty, he left his wife, it's like, really? Okay. All right. Time out, everybody. We're all flawed. We've all had problems in our lives. We all made mistakes, right? But the way out of this, the way to truth, I think, is collaboration, sharing information, debating things. Like if I don't sit here and debate things, and I'll be left in my own little tin can, my little echo chamber. And they've created echo chambers all around the truth community. Have you noticed that, Jeff? What do you think?
Steve, have you ever been called a prophet before?
Yeah.
Well, just as you're saying that, we're getting bombarded in the chat room with Steve is a fraud, Jeff is a fraud, blah, blah, blah. And our great moderators are doing a fine job with it, but it's hilarious.
It is hilarious. And what they're trying to do is the more open-minded I get, the worse the attacks get.
Exactly.
Because they don't want the people like Jeff and Steve and Wayne and others. They don't want us talking to each other. They don't want us talking with each other. Listen, man, being a YouTube person right now is hard. There's the money is dried up. There's no support in it anymore. They've taken the ads away. They shadow ban us. Yeah, here we are still doing the videos, guys.
Why, Steve? If there's no money in it anymore, why are you still doing it?
Because I want to be a person that's in service to others and not service to self.
There you go. That's the great answer. That is the number one answer. And I want to ask this question because it just popped in my mind. If you think about YouTube as a whole, what percentage would you guess are there that are agents provocateurs that know they're wrong and they're trying to just poison the well of the whole genre? What would you guess?
I would say, you mean the number of creators that are out there right now?
Yes.
I would say probably 50%.
Really? That high? Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. But that takes in a whole lot of categories too. So there's some of us, right? Like I've been misled where I've gotten pictures or I've gotten testimony all designed to get me to put it up on my channel, right? And then later to find out it was a fraud or a hoax and I had to apologize for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got people that are knowing, willing, though knowing, willing provocateurs, to your definition, maybe is a smaller percentage.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are being misled with misdirected information? How many people are being handled by somebody that they didn't even know they're being handled by somebody? All of a sudden, you've got this friend that's talking to you every day, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and all of a sudden they're pointing you in this direction or pointing you in that direction. There's so many different levels to the misinformation and the way, but hopefully we're getting a little smarter, right, Jeff? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if I am or not, but I feel like I've what's really starting to happen is I'm starting to get my own sovereign point of view on stuff.
And that's where you have to get to be. And I'm a guy, it's not quite natural for me, Steve, because I like to believe people. I like people to like me. I like to be able to just, be have camaraderie with everybody. But in our position where we are now, and it's not like we're anything, but we have to be very, very careful. And we have to kind of keep people at arm's length. And we even have to keep our own ideas at arm's length, because I don't think it's just people that are coming at us. We're not beyond having ideas dropped into our head that we think is the next biggest thing. You've got to kind of pump the brakes even on your own ideas sometimes, because this is an age where people are trying to bring deception. And if you're having any type of an impact, you're certainly going to be hit with deceivers from sometimes within and from without.
Right. And I've slowed down on making videos too, because it's getting to the point now where it's like, before I put something out there, I'm just like, I struggle over it. Like, should I say this? Is this right? Should I double check myself? Maybe that's a good thing, but it's like, it's really affected by volume because I'm not so fast to jump on anything, like I used to be. But here's my biggest sin when I started out in both ministry, preaching and stuff, and then also in the YouTube community. My biggest fault, I will tell you right now, I'll confess it to you, is that I'm as naive as a crack. I am so naive.
We want to believe. We're like Fox Mulder. We want to believe.
Yep. And I didn't realize that, and I know this is going to sound naive, but it's true. This is the way I looked at it. because I couldn't believe that somebody would want to hurt me on purpose.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, Steve, the truth is out there, but there's also a lot of error out there.
Right. But you know what I mean in terms of people that come into your life all of a sudden just out of the blue, and then all of a sudden you find out that they're like a narcissist, and you've been taken for a ride, and
it hurts, doesn't it?
It hurts like hell.
Yeah.
Because I'm a trusting soul, you know.
Me too. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
You know, and when you find yourself being manipulated, it just hurts really hard to see that, you know.
It does. I mean, to me, it's a visceral hurt. It's just it hurts you to your very core.
Because it's attacking our innocence.
It is, isn't it? But the real test is we've got to maintain the wonder, maintain the innocence, maintain the excitement, even after we've been kicked in the teeth 2 or 3 times.
Well, and that's what I see you doing, and I try to do too, Jeff. That's why I have a lot of respect for what you're doing, is that you, even in spite of all the attacks and the slams and the setbacks and everything like that, you still come out with that sense of wonder and trying to say, what does it all mean? And what should we talk about next? And so that,
well, I appreciate that, Steve. I really do.
But I think that's the battle, right? The battle is, can we maintain our sense of innocence and wonder in the face of this onslaught? And I think that's a test, right? And not a test from God or anything. What I mean by that is,
I know what you mean.
It's a hurdle that if you can overcome that, and it's going to lead to sovereignty. It's going to lead to more sovereignty.
Absolutely. What do you think about the possibility that the moon is actually a broadcast organism to broadcast control rays, for lack of a better term, onto us?
Probable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the whole thing, right, I kind of buy into the Ike frame of reference right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying it's one frame of reference. There's lots of different ones out there. But the idea that it's been brought in as part of a controlling matrix that is literally, and in fact, I'm going to show you a video right now. It's going to blow your freaking mind.
Please do.
So this, I didn't get verbal permission to share this, so this is risky. But this guy, PJ, I think he's he's trying to telepathically communicate with me. But,
okay.
So here's.
Does that freak you out at all? He's trying to telepathically communicate with you?
Oh no, I've actually. There's been people like Daniel Wall, the guy that was the interview with the Nephilim that I had on my channel years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He and I was in a full blown telepathic communication for about 20 minutes.
Interesting.
And I never experienced that before. So I'm telling you, man, it's not something that Steve did. I'm not one of those guys that are trying to astral project or anything. I don't do any of that stuff, right? So when it happens to me, I'm like, like, whoa, you know? So anyway, there's that.
Cool.
How about you? Have you ever had telepathic experience?
No, not that I can think of.
So anyway, I'm just going to show this little thing, and I hope, PJ, you're okay with it, man. He's claiming that he has a guide in a spaceship, okay? And the spaceship is over here, okay? He's watching a live broadcast of the ISS space station that flies around the Earth, and I do that's up there, okay? They don't show us what's really going on in it, okay? So that's why we have a lot of the fake stuff going on. So it's, the sucker's choice. That's the other thing I hate, is the sucker's choice. It must be that it's fake, or it's all real, it's all fake. Well, what about something in between? It might be, you know what I mean? Don't do the sucker's choice. So anyway, so he's filming the ISS, right? And his guide, he says that his guide had been preparing him. He said, I want you to go to the live ISS, and I want you to watch the Earth.
No way.
You're going to see a reset of the Earth. Watch this. This is a live ISS that he's recording, right?
Yeah.
So he's watching it. Just give it a second, guys. Just give it a second. So here's the ISS. Here's one of the this is the SpaceX capsule, by the way, that just went up. So it's a current set of images. He puts his finger up to point out something on the Earth, and then watch what happens, guys. This will blow your freaking mind, man. PJ, I hope you're okay with this, bro.
Well, I like asking forgiveness and not permission, Steve.
Now
I'm with you.
Watch this. So you see the Earth. Watch the Earth really close. Watch real close now. Watch. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Did you see that?
No.
Let's do it again. Watch.
Oh, we're behind the. I'm watching there. I saw it. Yeah, I forgot we had a delay. I did see it.
Did you see it again? Do it one more time.
I did. Yep.
Do it one more time. So you're asking me if the moon is part of a system that creates a holographic image on the planet?
Oh, look at that. You cannot explain that.
Live ISS. I was watching the feed. I was watching him do it. He was explaining that he had a guide that was telling him to watch for this, that there would be a reset right in front of him, a holographic reset.
Well, the guy is getting some information from some source that knows what it's talking about, at least in that instance. So now we can do the whole thing about what kind of guide is this and what kind of person would have this type of information.
Again, I'm just saying, all I know is he was watching this and the earth resets, right?
It does. I mean, it looks like it speeds up, or the matrix resets, or the hologram resets. Mm-hmm. Something happened that is beyond. I mean, it looks like it, or it was a recording that got sped up, and this is supposed to be live ISS. Something weird happened. There was a reset. That's the perfect word for it.
Yeah, and so this goes.
And his guy told him, "Watch this. It's going to happen."
Yeah, and he just pulls up the live ISS feed and goes, and he was, as he's talking, if you go, guys, go watch this. This is PJ. His name is PJ. He's got 42 subscribers. But just go, and he's just talking like, hey, my guide says that this is going to happen. What's going to happen? And so he's looking at stuff on the other. He goes, I still don't see it. I still don't see it. And then when he sees it, listen to how he reacts to this, guys. This is just crazy. Watch this. I'll play the sound here.
Point. Oh, you did just see the distortion in the matrix. Okay.
That's exactly what it is. It's a distortion in the matrix. So this guy's either being guided by some entity or person that knows, or it's somebody that's on the inside that is directing this.
Messing with him.
Yeah. Or third, somebody that's just messing with him.
But I'll take him at his word. He's saying that it's his star family. He's a star seed. PJ, yeah. I accept that, okay? I'm not going to...
Yeah, well, what he saw it, and they told him it was coming, so what can you say?
Right. Now, the reason I brought that to bear was because the question was, is the moon part of some kind of a mechanism that maintains this, like, holographic, reality that we live in? And I think that it's very plausible and very possible, Jeff. I do.
Boy, after seeing that, I don't know that you could have any other conclusion than it is a matrix. And doesn't that put the whole, or does that, in your opinion, put the whole flat round debate almost on a moot?
See, I don't even like to enter into that because it's gotten to the point where it's gotten to be the flat, flat Earth, just like the Planet X community. Dogma. I'm right, you're wrong. There's no way you could. Okay, listen to me, guys. Listen. If all the information in the universe was in my hand, right now, how much of my hand do you think we know right now as Earthlings on Earth with only an 80-year lifespan? Tell me.
Good point.
The billionth of the dot of a pin of the area of my hand.
Yeah.
We know. We've got to stop this arrogant lack of humility. This idea that here's another one that really gets to me. So I've got this gal who's showing me these pictures, Renee, right? And I'll show you a couple of them here. She's been photographing a UFO, okay? And she's a Christian, okay? She was at one of the conferences recently, right? And she wants to talk to L.A. Marzulli and all these guys about this picture, right? They shunned her.
Well, L.A. Marzulli shuns me too, so I had to say it.
But the point I'm trying to make is,
but we do hope he's coming back. I know his house was destroyed, and I hope that worked out well for him, and that him and his family are doing well.
We wish the best for LA.
Absolutely.
He's one of my red pill guys, and Steve Quayle and all those guys. So I don't take anything away. But the point is that the first reaction when they see this, and this is like a globulous, like multicolored thing that she's filmed several times now. She's gotten a lot of good footage of it.
But where does she see it, Steve?
In her backyard.
Just up in the sky?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I said a lot of bad things about LA that trying to goad him into a debate that I shouldn't have. So I feel like I need to just apologize publicly again for that. Still love to debate him, but I wasn't in the right mindset.
The reason I put that in the context of the kind of the preacher truther group that we have in our community, because they're part of our community, like it or not. Okay.
Yep.
Is the fact that they immediately go to, that's got to be demonic.
Exactly.
Really? How do you know that? What gives you the right to look at a being up in the sky? Let's say it's a being or a craft or whatever it is. Who knows? That you could just say without any further information other than this gal showing you a picture and saying, I'm having a weird set of experiences over my house. What do you think this is? The first thing you say is it's evil and it's demonic. What? Where do you get off making these judgments?
It's crazy.
And then you'll sit there and give me crap because I say I'm God, because Jesus said I was. Remember,
exactly.
He said gods. You're going to give me crap about being a blasphemer, yet you'll sit there and you'll point at something like a God and say it's this and that, and it must be that way and no other way. Stop.
Stop.
The reason I'm saying it isn't because I'm mad at you or people that are like that. I'm asking you to stop.
Absolutely.
Don't think you know everything. Don't think you know everything about me, especially, or Jeff. Don't think you know just because somebody says this or that it's true, right? We've got to be able to pull back and say, you know what? I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And right now, what I don't know is way bigger than what I think I know.
But, Steve, being for 20 years a preacher, I'm thinking back in that context, when you see something that's outside of what you quote unquote know to be true, it's much easier to say it's demonic and it's a deception than it is to actually have to sit down and think about it and throw your entire paradigm under review and under real investigation. It's easier to just do what you're told.
Right. And that's one of the things I've been observing is the reason that dogma is so prevalent in the human species is because it's easy.
Oh, it's so easy.
So easy, man. Oh,
and you have all these people that'll gather around you and pat you on the back and, way to be strong in your faith. And yeah, it's just crazy.
But again, it's like the whole Jesus is going to save me idea, right? So in other words, you can just do and say anything you want, and Jesus is just going to pull your ass out of the fire. I don't think so anymore.
No.
I think that there are laws of karma. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. And if I was trying to destroy you and sit on you and keep you in a prison, that's exactly what I'd tell you. I'd say, all you got to do is just take this pill and everything will be fine, right?
Yep.
In fact, it takes a lot of hard work to ascend. It takes a lot of hard work to grow spiritually. And you're going to have to, if you're going to really truly grow spiritually, you're going to have to buck dogma, period.
All dogma, even your own dogma.
And again, guys, it's not just religion, it's science, right? Science is right now, we might as well call science the high priests of our current age.
They're the oracles, aren't they?
They are.
Reading from their temples at Harvard and Cornell and Berkeley and all these other places.
Right. And if you haven't been initiated into our group, then you have no business talking about cosmic stuff.
Yeah. I started, my catchphrase has always been unindoctrinate yourself. And I thought that just meant religiously, spiritually. But once I kind of got there, then I realized, oh, crap. Now there's unindoctrinate myself politically, culturally, financially. Unindoctrination isn't a destination. It's a process. And I think it happens as long as we're here.
Yeah, I mean, let me give you a great example is people that are unapologetically pro-Trump, right? Just an example, I'm not trying to put you down, okay? If you believe that Trump is the savior of mankind and he's the chosen one, great, go believe whatever you want to believe, okay? But this guy is a piece of crap, guys, okay? You look into his personal life, you look into how he's done dealings, his work with the 5 families in New York, I mean, all of it, right? Is he, then you might say, well, isn't he a better choice than Hillary? I don't know. I think they're both bad. I think they're all in on it. I think they're all part of a cabal. I don't think any of them are on our side, right? But if I say that to a Q guy or to a Trump supporter, they might get violent. Dogma. That's dogma,
yeah.
You guys.
And I'm a lot closer to a Trump supporter than you are. I see a lot of positives, but I still don't allow myself to drink the MAGA Kool-Aid. You still have to be objective. You still have to sit back and watch because, I mean, we don't know that if this guy is like, if you're like me, you think, oh, he's doing some good stuff. He's doing some good stuff. He could just be luring us in. The thing about it is you can't trust any authority. You can't trust any preacher. You can't trust any politician. Nobody's coming back to save you. Your ship isn't coming in. You got to swim out and meet it. You've got to be divine, sovereign, and free. Right. And it's your own work that's going to save you. Not anybody in the White House, not anybody in the Vatican, not anybody in a church. not even anybody else in your house. You got to do it yourself. Who's going to save you? Go look in a mirror. That's the guy, that's the girl that's going to save you.
Right. And again, it's like it goes back to the cult of personality. I'm only bringing up Trump as an example because that's an example of political dogma.
It's a great example.
And then you've got scientific dogma,
and Steve, before we even leave that, Trump is a perfect example because it's nobody, there's very few people that are like, oh, Trump is okay. It's either I hate him or I love him.
Right. And I'm one of these people that, hey, he's done some good stuff and I'm really questioning other stuff he does. That's where I'm at.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm not so sure I trust his origins. I'm not so sure that I trust the selection process that brought him into office. I don't trust any of it anymore. Of course, that's where we are as a truth community right now, right? So
it is.
I hope so anyway. And the other thing I've been noticing is that that people are starting to lose their fascination with now just the basic, call it the truth, kind of dialogue, like the Federal Reserve and all that stuff. There was this period of time where we were all kind of first waking up and it's like, oh my God, I can't get enough of this information about what's happening and, 9/11 and everything like that, right? It just kind of, but you ever notice that that's all kind of dying down now and that people aren't really watching that stuff anymore in our community, that is? I have a sense that we're shifting gears now and it's time to start becoming spiritual again. I think we need to be looking at the inside, and people are losing their interest on the outside. Here's why. Because now you've woken up, now you see that things aren't what they were telling us. You've seen the patterns. You don't need to know all the details. You don't need all the facts. You just know there's a pattern. And now I'm seeing people start to look inwardly and say, what have they hidden about me?
Yeah. It's like my buddy.
People ask this question, what are we?
That's so good. It's like my buddy, Vinny Eastwood, who you probably know. Vinny Eastwood says, congratulations that you've woke up. That's good. You've woke up, but now you have to get out of bed.
That's right. And you got to brush your teeth.
And it's really better if you can have a reason to get out of bed. So what are those reasons to get out of bed? Who are we? What are we? Why are we here? Where are we going? What can we do? What can we be?
What are our capabilities?
What are our capabilities? If we're really, like the message of the anointing tells us, filled with the kingdom of God, if we really are gods, if we really are divine, sovereign, and free, man, what can we do? The thing that frustrates me, Steve, is we have all these people out of one side of their mouth saying, you can manifest your world, you can manifest your world, you can make anything. And then on the other side of their mouth is gloom and doom, destruction, horror, it's all coming. Wait a minute, I thought we could manifest. If we can, let's do it.
Right. And I'm just coming through that very thing. So I'm going to be very empathetic with people. So as I was going, as I was getting closer to my current point of view, I was stuck on that. Like, I can't deny that there's a lot of scary stuff going on out here. But on the other hand, I'm starting to learn that I might be way more powerful than they're telling me. So I get it. If you're in this thing right now, guys, Jeff went through it. Anybody who's gotten onto the other side has to go through that phase. So I understand it 100%. But I'm starting to think that we don't have to buy into none of their bullshit. I'm starting to think that if we really started to understand our power, this is Steve Olson talking. If we really started to
Norseman, thank you.
Right? We started to really understand our true power and our true capability and truly what we're capable of. I believe we can write the script.
Steve, you are singing my song. That's what I've been trying to say. Look, we can do this. We can manifest our own reality. We can write our own script. Do you think it's a collective script, Steve, or is it an individual script?
So I've been studying the Toltecs, right? And the Toltecs have there was a book called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
I have heard of it before.
Yeah, Michael Ruiz. And this is actually ancient knowledge from the Toltec group. And I've been told by sources that this is one of the best pieces of information that's ever been bestowed upon mankind, okay?
Interesting.
What it boils down to, though, is what you think are these deep spiritual, ancient, truths would be so mind-blowing, boils down to four things. One, don't take anything personally. Two, don't assume anything. Three, always do your best. That's the deep knowledge of the universe, right?
What's the fourth one?
I got to look at my book.
Yeah.
I gotta find this book. Here it is. Yeah. So this one right here.
Oh yeah. And that's so simple and so basic. And it's like, even if you're come from a biblical perspective, it all boils down to two things: love yourself, love your neighbor.
Right. This is very biblical stuff, by the way. And I'm a Bible scholar, so people that say, Steve, go read your Bible. If they had the time in the Bible that I've had in exegising Hebrew and Greek and everything like you and I both have done, come on, guys. I've read the Bible. This is biblical. What it says is, be impeccable with your word. That's the first one.
Like it.
You're always speaking the truth in love to yourself and to others.
See, I could work on that one. I could work on that a little bit.
It's the hardest one, because being impeccable in your word takes a lot of discipline. Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, and this goes back to the Word of Faith movement. They had some of it right.
They did.
They had some of it right. Don't take anything personally. Usually when somebody's attacking you, it's because they have a problem, not you.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, when somebody's attacking, like they say, you're a scammer. That means you're a scammer. You're this and you're that. No, that means you're struggling with that. Otherwise, you wouldn't care. You wouldn't.
And Steve, can we turn around and say, if we want to attack somebody and say you're this, then we should look in our own life and see if that's not there?
Precisely right. Don't make assumptions. In other words, like, don't just assume you know something. Like, if somebody says something about Jeff, or if Jeff says something I don't understand, I should ask him questions until I get to the bottom of what he means, as opposed to just assuming you know what he meant.
Yeah. Let me give you a little quick story about that. I was over in, I wasn't there. My buddy, who was a preacher, I've never been to Australia. It's one of the very few places I've ever been. He was a preacher. He's in Australia. And he just got there, and their baby had one of those, we call it a binky, in their mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And they loved their baby. And this lady walked by and said, "Oh, that's a funny looking little dummy." And they got so offended. They were beyond themselves. And somebody said, come down. In Australia, we call those binkies dummies. They weren't talking about your kid. So don't presume anything.
Yeah, that's like the South Africans like to call the old, like, discs. They call them dicks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's what they call them. So anyway, and then the last one is always do your best. Now, always do your best is the idea that, if you're always doing your best, then nobody can judge you, and you can't judge yourself because you did your best. Now,
if you know you've done your best, then what else is there?
Right? Now, those are the 4 agreements, but he goes into depth in here in talking about that the Toltecs believe that the dream, that we each have our own dream, that then rolls up into a collective dream.
Ooh.
And everything that we see is a dream, and I think we all kind of agree, holographic universe, dream, whatever you call it, right? So my dream rolls up to a collective dream through just the same hierarchy as anything else. The question is, whose dream are we following right now?
Oh, that's a good one.
And with all of this centralized, they want to centralize the narrative. They want to centralize control on the earth, because they want to create one dream that everybody has one consensus on. And that you can see why they would do that, right?
Yep.
Because and so the question is, if I'm impeccable in my word, if I follow these 4 agreements and I start to regain my sovereignty, that I can actually create my own dream. It's the same energy. The same energy powers all of it. So look at me like a prism, right? Light comes in here, light comes out in colors. What comes out this side, if you will, in this metaphor, is up to me.
That's right.
So if you don't like the dream you're in right now, change it.
And you can.
You can.
It might not change today or tomorrow or next week, right, but it will change. And it does change daily. It's just so incremental that you don't always see it in real time. It takes a little time before enough increments of change happen before they start manifesting themselves, but they are changing. If you're trying, if you don't give up, because there's people out there, Steve, that are trying. They're like, I've been trying this but I don't see anything yet. Keep going. It's just incremental change. Other people probably see it in you and you don't see it. Right. But pretty soon you'll start seeing the manifestation of it yourself.
Yeah, it's almost like the same thing as, like, I don't see my nephew who's 3 years old, and then like a year later I see him and he grew a foot. He doesn't feel like he grew at all.
Right.
Right. So in the same way, that's really what's happening here. But I really starting to think now, does that, so start with simple things like I'm not happy arguing all the time, and I don't want to be this like contrarian all the time and everything like that. So imagine yourself. Oh, check this out. What I just learned. This is really interesting because my son's got a brain injury, so I study brain science all the time now, right? So one of the things I've come to learn is that in recent studies, they've realized that brain neuroplasticity, that is the programming of your brain, if you will, that imagining something has more impact on your brain than actually doing it.
Yeah, I've always known that your brain can't tell the difference between what you're imagining and what's real, but it's even beyond that.
It's your imagination has more power to change your neuroplasticity than actually doing the task. So if I imagine doing it, this is what I coach Matthew on, and as he's going through this, I say, you need to imagine yourself lifting your arms up. You need to imagine yourself walking. Imagine yourself doing this. Imagine yourself doing that. And over time, and then again, in Matthew's case, he can lift his foot up now. Hey, I'm here, right?
That's amazing.
Right. But again, that's the same. It's not going to be this instant overnight success. And that's what I'm frustrated with right now. I'll relate to that because I've been trying this stuff too. Like, we're constantly faced with this idea of lack. I mean, this is a new one recently, right? In this, I know you do too. I know you face it every day. Like, how am I going to pay my bills, et cetera? I'm doing this stuff. And, isn't the universe going to help me? I'm helping the universe, right? But I've been coming to realize that there is a pinch going on right now in the world. And that pinch on truthers, let's say, or the pinch on the spiritual, I think is intentional because what they're trying to do is get us to see the lack in our lives, focus on that, be afraid of that. And then what does that do to you? It takes you from service to others to service to self, just like that. Because as soon as I'm focused on the lack in my life, then I'm worried about me.
Yep. Powerful stuff.
It's hard, man. This is so hard. I'm not saying I get it yet. I get it intellectually. I'm still trying to work it out in my heart right now. I want to, in the midst of lack, what seems like lack, like right now, everything's just hitting me at one time. Can I still give? Can I push through that and keep my focus and my motive on helping others?
That's powerful.
What do you think, Jeff? I'm just blathering.
No, I think that's powerful. And I was just thinking that, if you work really hard and apply yourself, in 3, 4, 5 years, you can be an overnight success.
Trust me. It's like, and again, do I think that we can change the collective dream? Honestly, going forward, do I think that we can come back to a sense of like, just take one thing. We don't want war anymore, right?
Right.
Literally manifest that on the earth if we get our ducks in a row. I think we can.
I think we can too. And and what do you think, Steve, as we kind of bring this to a close? We're thinking about the moon and what is the moon? Where is the moon? What's it doing to us? How do we draw the balance of learning, studying, observing, compiling data, but not allowing that data to put us in a place of fear or worry by, oh my God, the moon's fake. It's broadcasting this stuff. It's meant to kill us all. What are we going to do?
I got the Steve Olson answer for this. If you realize that you're an eternal being, then this is just a flea on an elephant's ass.
Ain't that the truth?
And I really seriously think about what I'm saying. So if I'm focused just on this temporal meat suit existence, this stuff will cause fear because it's like a threat to my survival. But if I realize that I'm an eternal being, this is not a threat to my survival at all.
Yep.
Then it becomes science and interesting and just a hobby and something that we can track and all that kind of stuff. And the people that want to dig holes, buy gold, get food, all those kinds of things. I was one of those people, man. I'm telling you, I was. I'm not.
You ran groups of those people, brother.
I did, and I'm not saying it's bad to be prepared. It's common sense. If there's an earthquake or tornado or hurricane, we want to be prepared or whatever. That's fine. But this idea that we're surviving at all costs, what does that tell you? It tells you that you're focused on this temporal life. And all the great masters, I don't care who you're talking about, all of them without exception say, focus on that you're an eternal being and fear goes away.
Yeah. And you think about it, Steve, it's fine to prepare. Things can happen, but maybe you should do I'm just suggesting that maybe you do a little bit of equation. For every bit of physical preparation you do X amount of spiritual preparation. Just a suggestion.
If a planet shows up in the sky right now out here, I won't be freaked out about it. So that's the other thing, is looking at it, understanding stuff, saying that weird stuff could happen right around the corner, and not being in a, kind of inoculating yourself. I think that's a lot of the benefit of what WSO has probably done, is when people start seeing this stuff with their eyes in the sky, if that happens, they're not going to be freaked. They're just going to be like,
that's true. We won't be freaked out when we'll be like, oh,
hey,
what do you know?
Yeah, we can see it. Let's take a picture and send it to Steve.
Let's make a video. Exactly. And that's really a pretty good place to be. Instead of, oh my God, we're all going to die. You're like, ooh, where's my phone? Let's make a video.
If an asteroid lands in Lake Michigan, I'm dead. Face it.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing. Last thing. I'm sorry. I promise this will be the last thing.
Okay.
So in this book, they actually talk about the angel of death. Right?
Really?
Yeah. And that part of our problem is that we have these parasites that kind of inject their dream into us, live what they want us to live. And one of the greatest ways to get rid of the parasites is the angel of death. Do you ever notice that when somebody gets a cancer diagnosis, they all of a sudden change radically because they're facing the angel of death? I know this is horrible stuff. Some of you experience this in your family. I'm not trying to diss any of that. But when you notice that you can see your death, you can see that you're immortal, the Toltecs say that is a blessing, because then you're able to get rid of those parasites prior to your death.
Yeah. It's like the old Tim McGraw song, the guy found out he had cancer, and what'd he do? He went skydiving, he went mountain climbing, he was a nice guy. And I just thought I was going to say this about 5 minutes ago. When you get to the place where you're not afraid of death anymore, you realize that it's just a passage, there's nothing they can do to you. And that's when you become really dangerous to the Matrix. And there's a strange calmness that just comes, like, no matter what happens here, I'm good. And that allows you to make decisions from a place of empowerment and not a place of fear or doubt or worry. And I just hope that we could all get there. And Craig Make a Sandwich says in the chat room, when you get the trolls, you know you're on the right path. It's like a video game. When you're getting bombarded with enemies, you're playing it right. I don't play video games, but that sounds like it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And the trolls, like, again, it's part of what's happening to us too as a community too. Is, have you noticed that you just care less and less what they think?
I have noticed that. It's funny.
Yeah. And that's happening with me too. And what a freedom too. It's like, you know what? I'm going to be me. I'm going to do me. If you don't like it, leave.
Yep. You're like, you're not, you get to the point where, because before it kind of meant something monetarily to have X amount of people there. But now that it doesn't really mean it anymore, you're kind of like, and that's really where we should have been the whole time. Right.
Maybe the apocalypse was a blessing in disguise, Jeff?
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Wow. We started out talking about the moon. We ended up talking about things a lot more important than the moon, right? Because it doesn't matter if the moon doesn't rise or set or fall over, blow up, hit the earth. It really doesn't matter if you got your own house in order.
That's right. And either you're an eternal being or you're not.
Exactly. And if you're an eternal being, then why are you so worried about chopping heads and marks of the beast and red heifers and Planet X and pole reversals and comets? Why worry about all that? Study it, understand it. Okay, great. But don't let yourself get all wrapped up in it. And if you are divine, sovereign, and free, and you are an eternal being, it won't bother you. If you aren't, if you're really, really, really worried about it, maybe that's an answer into what your own answer to that question is. Am I a divine, sovereign, free, eternal being, or am I not? Maybe how you react to these things shows what you really, really believe on the inside, and only you can change that.
That's right. And the question I've been asking myself all morning. I've been asking the question is, Steve, are you really in service to others? Or are you in service to yourself? I've been asking. I mean, I go through these cycles, and the answer is, in some areas I'm in service to self. I'd like to get rid of those, but hopefully the majority of it is I'm in service to others. But whenever, like I said, this goes back to that lack thing, Jeff. If we are lacking in our lives, a lot of times it will get us in fear where we'll start backsliding, like, I have.
Yeah,
we all have. Today's spiritual journey is about, I really want to refocus my life on being in service to others.
Can you be 100% in service to others?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either.
but we got to do our best. That's all we're asked to do. And if you feel like you've done your best, then leave it at that.
It's like the message of the anointing says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And these two things is what it's all about. And I started thinking about that. Okay, love my neighbor as I love myself. What is prerequisite there? What's inferred? That I do love myself. So I've got to love myself first. Then I can love my neighbor as I love myself. Powerful stuff, powerful thoughts from Steve Olson of WSO. Make sure you go over and subscribe to his channel. It looks like you might be frozen again, Steve. Are you still with us? He's frozen, but he's frozen in a very handsome position, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to thank Steve from the bottom of my heart for being with us again. It's been a great discussion. It's been a great podcast. We'll have Steve back again. This is a man that you can watch actually walking the walk and living the life and not just talking the talk. Steve, I salute you for that. All of you great people in the chat room, I salute you very much. If you're here for the first time, consider subscribing to the channel. And we will have Steve back before long. Make sure you do go to his channel and subscribe. WSO Whiskey Sierra Oscar. Make sure you go over there and subscribe. I haven't checked out Bruce Sees All, but if Steve recommends him, that's good enough for me. Go subscribe to that channel as well. And folks, we appreciate you so much. We're glad that you were here. Remember, tonight we're going to have Unindoctrinated at midnight over on Odyssey, odsy1.com. Go check that out. As always, I want to remind you, history is written by the winners. Let's win today and write a better tomorrow. We're the Gospel Truth Army. We're the last generation of real humans, and we can get this done. For Steve Olson, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, reminding you, let's get busy.